Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'm going to be talking about a little bit of the box office and also about Disney in general. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh man, here Odin comes with yet another one of the countless number of Captain Marvel videos that there is out there. But today I'm actually going to be talking about a lot of other things, which obviously will include things that include Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel is a part of the Disney Corporation. But my main focus today is going to be on a simple fact, is that Disney, specifically Walt Disney Company, is out of ideas and is running out of ideas. And I honestly believe that there has to be a point. There has to be a point where they will stop making money at the movies. They really, honestly, I've gotten to the point now where I'm just looking at everything and I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell do they keep on being able to essentially remake and remake and remake and reboot and sequel and prequel, etc., and they still make money? I would really honestly like to know and can see and compare how many original stories we have seen from Disney versus how many completely based on previous material, movies, prequels, sequels, etc. that we've seen. I guarantee you that it's probably 99% sequel, prequel, etc. versus original content. Because even movies that you might think are original content are all based off of something else, usually a short story or something like that. Oh, well, Frozen was original. Nah, actually, Frozen was actually based off of previous material. Now, did they adapt it? Did they make it their own? Sure, absolutely. And I think that definitely takes a level of creativity. I'm not going to try and attack people who have creative minds, but we also need to understand that there is a place, I feel, for original content that is slowly getting lost because of Disney and other companies like it. Why am I pointing out Disney? Well, let's first start off by showing the list of assets owned by Disney. Now, if you did not know this, Disney owns so much crap. I mean, just look at this. We have not only the production company of Walt Disney Pictures and Disney Nature, we also have Walt Disney Animation, Pixar Animation, the entire Lucasfilm brand, all of Star Wars and everything that happens. That you have Marvel Studios. You're pretty soon going to have 20th Century Fox as well, meaning that they essentially own almost every single major company and major producer and distributor of films in the world. So with a company like this, with a company that owns so much, has so much money, so much profit, you would think that, oh, well, maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to, produce some pretty good original content, be able to get some of these up-and-coming directors and say, hey, instead of giving you a Marvel film, instead of giving you a Star Wars film, instead of giving you one of these major name properties, hey, how about this? We have a bunch of leftover money here. We got a lot of profits. How about instead you write your own story. You write an original story, a story that we can tell to our audiences, and then we can produce it, and then we can make it. It could be awesome. You would think that Disney would be able to do this, but all that they seem to be doing is just getting more and more and more and consuming, and the quality of the products really isn't getting much better. I mean, take any of the major franchises. You have, of course, Star Wars. Star Wars, we were all very excited saying, oh my gosh, Star Wars has the backing of one of the biggest corporations in the world, if not the biggest corporation in the world, maybe slightly behind Google, but still a major corporation nonetheless. And so we thought, oh man, this is going to be great because it's going to be, well produced, it's going to have a lot of money behind it, it's going to be great. And what have we seen from Star Wars? Star Wars has just, started off strong and then has just gone downhill ever since. You look to the Marvel company. I mean, they've had it now, and they've been running it strong in the MCU for 10 years, 11 years this year, and they've given us 21, 22 films, and yet we can see that there's obviously been some ebbing and flowing, but overall, the quality has, in my opinion, dropped, because now it's reached a formulaic genre. Now it's become so formulaic that you can predict almost anything when it comes to plot holes and plot points and everything like that. Now, am I saying that I don't necessarily enjoy those films? No, of course I enjoy the MCU. Of course I enjoy most of the films that come out. But we are getting to the point now where it's starting to think, okay, Disney, you've kind of done everything. You kind of own everything, because that's not even getting into the music group and the television circuit and, seriously, all of this. These are all assets owned by Disney. It's a lot. They own a crap ton. And yet, even though they own everything, even though they own all of these damn companies and have so much creative talent, we know that simply because of the amount of pure talent that comes out of their animation studios, even though the stories themselves might be based on previous material, even though the stories themselves might be simple and might in some cases be bad, we do know that there is indeed a lot of people, a lot of talented people behind the scenes. Why don't they just let them kind of just run loose with new and creative ideas? And the reason why is because they're out of ideas. And for people saying, oh, they're not out of ideas, they're still innovating, and, it's all about the money. It's all about them making money. This is capitalism after all. And hey, I agree. I think that, you should go ahead and keep on doing the things that are going to make you money. But here's my main concern. You see the giant growth that we've had recently with, at-home entertainment, Netflix, how Netflix essentially changed the game, how now so many people aren't even going to the theater anymore because they can just either wait for it to come out on Netflix or enjoy other original content on services like Netflix or Amazon Instant Video and all these other services that exist. And so you're seeing all of these people and you're seeing how they are changing their ways, but Disney and companies like Disney are staying essentially the same. And they think, oh, if we just accumulate all of these titles and all of these things and all these properties, we can remake them and reboot them until the end of time, and that's how we'll continue to make money. And there is definitely a good point to be made there because they have made a lot of money. But it also, to me, shows that Disney is just running out of ideas. And I think there's going to come a point where you're going to have such a competitive race, a competitive nature, especially since the Disney Plus streaming service is coming out supposedly this year. Again, that's when they have it scheduled to, going head-to-head with Netflix. Is Disney going to be able to provide enough original content to be able to match what Netflix offers? Because, everything, obviously, we could say Netflix, puts out so many new films, so much original content to the point where even its original content isn't very good because it seems like they just greenlight everything. I think it was a South Park joke that basically said, oh, let's look at this, listen to this crazy idea. And Netflix is like, we love it. Go ahead. Have $10 million and have fun. But at least Netflix is allowing for people, especially people who otherwise probably wouldn't have gotten a shot anywhere else, to experiment, to play around with stories, to tell more original stories. I think that is definitely something that a lot of people are drawn to. So my question, and I guess my speculation is, how long can Disney last? If indeed Disney Plus is going to be successful, how long can they last on pure nostalgia? How long can they last on just rebooting and relabeling and taking old stories and old content and just continuing to make it new over and over and over again? Well, we know at least from their production schedule that they have this concept and this idea going forward, at least with their live action remakes. But I think the live action remakes, to me, are the best example of why Disney really needs to start innovating. Disney used to be the king of innovation. It was pretty much where we found so many of these great stories and the great ways of animation. Some of the greatest animators of all time, came from the Disney group. But then even when you think back to those times, you think, yeah, but even those stories, even those classics, even those things that I now think that's a Disney classic, is most likely based off of something else. So we look to the fact that just this year, what do we have coming out? What's next on the slate coming out for Disney? Well, first off, we have Dumbo coming out very soon. So we have a live-action Dumbo movie coming out. We now also have a Toy Story 4. When Toy Story 3 was perfect, it was the perfect ending to what it could have been a perfect trilogy, and they decided, nope, we haven't made enough money yet, so let's just go ahead and throw Toy Story 4 on it. Doesn't matter if it's a good story. Doesn't matter if it's going to be worth the damn thing. But it has Toy Story on it, so we know we'll make money. I mean, they made that mistake with Cars. They're like, oh, Cars is great. Everyone loved the first Cars, so let's make Cars 1, Cars 2, Cars 3. Let's make planes, and let's try to spin it off. And actually, thank God, that ended up not doing nearly as well, and it ended up being a pretty big failure. And guess what? They learned their lesson. But I really wish that they would start learning their lesson in other places, because if they keep on making these films, and if they keep only releasing these big films, these big pre-made films, these prequels, these sequels, these reboots, etc., it's going to come to the point where the audience is just going to keep on saying, all right, we've seen this now. We've seen it. Now, some could say, oh, it's been 20 years since we've seen some of these films on the big screen, so it's a good idea. But if you honestly think that Disney is taking this moment to say, oh, we're just trying to remake it, and that's it, you've got another thing coming. So we got Toy Story 4, we got The Lion King, because that needed to be remade, especially since it was an animated film in the first place, and this so-called live-action remake is just, oh, wait a minute, a completely CGI, so animated remake of a classic film that we don't need. Frozen 2, Frozen 1 did so well, it was guaranteed to get a sequel. But still, why is it that we're just continuing to push for all of these sequels? Trust me, I know. I know that I support several sequels and several franchises out there, John Wick being one of them. But John Wick, to me, especially when you look at the fact that the original movie itself was an original story, an original concept that was essentially building a brand new world, it's one that I think kind of bucks the trend, because you had a new character, a new world that was built, and now you've had 3 films, or coming up to 3 films, that have created this very set universe, and now you're able to even spin off from that universe. I think that's a little bit different than taking pre-established content and then saying, oh, let's not change much except a few little things, because now we have a little bit of a different view politically on certain things. So let's make LeFou seem, like a gay character. Let's make some certain characters, seem to be certain. Let's cast the actual races correctly this time for certain characters in certain parts in certain movies. And I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong or evil with those things. But when those are the only real changes that you're making, you ask yourself the question, okay, well, why are you remaking it? Oh, wait, that's right. It's all about the money. And as I said, we live in a capitalist society. It's a good thing to make money. But at the same time, if you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, eventually it's going to run out. Eventually, you're not going to be able to continue to make money, because at some point, audiences are going to say, all right, ticket prices are continuing to go up. Popcorn prices continuing to go up. All of these things, the prices are growing and growing and growing, and yet the stories are remaining stagnant. So we have all of these things going up, going in a certain direction. Again, going in a very steady direction. But when it comes to the actual original content, it's, pretty much stagnant. And I honestly think it's going to end up hurting them in the long run. So again, we got Frozen 2. And then in 2020, we have Onward, and then we have Pixar, Walt Disney Animation, Pixar. So God knows that most of these are probably going to be a reboot, a prequel, a sequel, a trilogy, who knows what. We know that those are what the names are going to be revealed as, because we know that that's all that they can do. Just look at this year alone: Toy Story 4, The Lion King, Frozen 2. Which means that next year they're going to have a whole other slate of films that they're rebooting or bringing into their second or third iteration, or just taking a concept that's been previously made on previous material and changing it into something different. Great example of that is Maleficent. I mean, everyone's like, oh, this was his original movie. It's taking the story of Rapunzel and, or rather taking the story of Sleeping Beauty and taking it from a different direction. But this film made money. And so they're like, oh, this is great. So we made this film. We made it from a different direction. We made it from the perspective of the villain. Oh, this is great. This is so original. This is so new. And yet, what do we have coming out that was just announced? Oh, wait, that's right. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. So now we're getting a prequel. Now we're getting a prequel to a spin-off of a movie that was already based off of a previous story. So I hope you see the connections that I'm trying to make here. And of course, it's all about the moolah. Again, this made $758 million worldwide on a $180 million budget. A very profitable film. So it makes sense that they would want to continue the story. But instead of trying to do something new, instead of trying to, maybe break the narrative or break the trends, they're like, no. So instead of making a sequel to Maleficent, instead of, maybe continuing the story, maybe flipping it back to the other perspective and say, hey, what happens to our heroes after the evil person is gone? What is happily ever after actually look like? Instead, they say, oh no, we want to keep Angelina Jolie on because she's going to bring in some money, so let's go ahead and just do a prequel of the reboots of the previously based material. And this was what started the whole trend of these live-action remakes, was Maleficent. You can really date it back to this point, because at this point, again, in 2014, you had Maleficent. The next year, you had Cinderella, which, again, was, I think, a pretty good remake, but it was still a remake, a reboot nonetheless, of a story that's been rebooted countless times, as I said before, is based off of a story that finds its origins far, far, far beyond what Disney was able to cobble up. And yet they're still trying to profit off of this. $95 million, made $543. The next year after that, can you see a trend? Every year, they decided to turn The Jungle Book into a live-action film, even though I arguably say that it's kind of live-action, because I'm sure there were certain live-action set pieces. Of course, the kid was real, but at the end of the day, most of it was CGI. I think that you had Jon Favreau, who knew what he was doing, but again, it's $175 million to put into it. It made $966. Again, made a lot of money. Almost broke the $1 billion mark. But still, a reboot, a remake. And if you think that this is the last time you're going to hear anything about The Jungle Book, go back again to these list of movies. I would not be surprised at all if we're going to see some of these movies coming out, these active development movies, these movies that they're planning. I would not be surprised if we see even more spin-offs. Because this is where their gold mine is. They've realized, wait a minute, we don't have to create anything new. All we need to do is just reboot our old content And then from there, when we make the money off of it and say, oh, look at that, people are interested. Wait, now we can take the concept and now we can just use the same story and just, spin it off or make a prequel or make a sequel. Just like they did with Maleficent. The year after that, we of course had Beauty and the Beast, which somehow made $1.2 billion because obviously it's based off of a story that many people love from the 90s. But even this, of course, based off previous material. If you think Beauty and the Beast is done, I'm going to tell you this right now. They saw that this movie made $1.2 billion. If you don't think they're going to do a sequel, if you don't think they're going to do some kind of spin-off of this, you've got another thing coming. And we've already shown that how they do that. This is Disney's MO now. Not doing original content, but only doing reboots, prequels, sequels, etc. And then every time they try and sometimes do something a little bit clever by taking a concept and turning a movie into it, showing even just the slightest bit of creativity, guess what happens? Oh wait, we see a flop here. Remember the Nutcracker and the Four Realms, one of the lowest grossing films of the year, and especially also one of the biggest box office bombs of 2018. $173 million it made on a $120 million budget. Keep in mind, that means it cost $180 million to make this film, and it only got 60% of that 173. It lost several $1 million. So we see when they try and actually be a little bit creative, they even still try to use a name, the Nutcracker. Oh, everyone's going to love the Nutcracker. We're going to release it in November. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they just wouldn't release it in December. That may have changed the box office. But this was like seriously one of the most original things that they've had in the last year, and it just didn't do well. And so I think they're actually painting themselves into a box. The most original stuff that they have is not performing nearly as well. So what are they going to do? Oh, wait, let's just go back to the old thing. Christopher Robin. Everyone loves Christopher Robin, right? Okay, let's take a little bit of a new spin on it. Let's take a little bit of a new spin on Winnie the Pooh. Let's tell the story of Christopher Robin all grown up. And this is a beautiful movie, too. And there's a lot of originality in this film, too. And guess what? Not a lot of people saw it. Yeah, I mean, you could say that it was technically profitable, but just so. Just so. And again, this was a good movie. But it's interesting that the two movies that probably have the most originality are still based off of something else. Are still based off of previous material, based on previous content. And these are the films that are not making the money. Again, Mary Poppins, $347 million. Guarantee you they thought they were going to make a lot more with that one. But I think what you're starting to see now is that, yeah, they had some successes. They were able to make money off of these films. They were able to make a lot of money off Beauty and the Beast. Then the times they tried to be a little bit creative, they didn't make money. And yes, they are still making money in Marvel. And yes, they are still making money in Star Wars. At least that was until Solo: A Star Wars Story came out. But Mary Poppins, to me, is, I think, a sign that people are getting a little bit tired. I think there is a fatigue going on. And I'm not going to say it's simply, superhero fatigue or Disney fatigue. I think it's honestly reboot fatigue. We're living in the age of reboots. We're living in the age of sequels. And I think just the general audience is tired of it. And I think that this might be a good example. Again, $130 million to make. It means that overall the film cost, around $195 million. It made 347, so take 60% of that, and yeah, it made a little bit of profit, but not much. This year they got Dumbo coming out. I'm telling you right now, I don't think Dumbo's going to do nearly as well as they think it's going to do. I think, you've got some big names. Colin Farrell's in there. Tim Burton. You got Danny Elfman doing the music. But this is, again, a story that's been told before. So am I saying that it's not going to make money? But I would say it probably will make probably close to what Mary Poppins Returns does. And then what else do you have this year? You have The Lion King. Good Lord, why is this movie being remade? You got Jon Favreau behind it, so you got a producer who's been known to make big hits. But I know that I have no interest in seeing this. I love The Lion King when I was little, but guess what? If all I'm going to be getting is a updated version of a movie that I love and nothing else is really going to change about it, why would I want to go see that? I've already seen what happens when they do that. I've already seen what happens when they try and put an agenda into a film, and we get this. And it's terrible. This movie was awful, and yet somehow, some way it made money. But I think this may have been the end point. I think people were, so excited to see this, and they were like, wait a minute, I don't think I like this. So, oh, wait a minute, this is something that a little bit more original. Let's not do this. Oh, wait a minute, I don't even know what this is. I've never even heard of this. Oh, Mary Poppins? Okay, maybe. Wait, no, maybe not as excited as I should be. So I think Dumbo might not actually succeed as much as they think either. Again, Lion King, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Why? Why are we doing a prequel? Why are we doing this character again? Then you got Mulan 2020, even further out than that. The point of all of this is to say that Disney has run out of ideas. And I think that Disney just based on the trends, based on how I'm following things, is going to really put themselves into a box, especially with this new streaming service they have coming out, because almost every series and show that they're talking about right now is all stuff based on previous material, is all Marvel content, is all Star Wars content, things based off of other things. And I honestly believe that there's going to come a point very soon when the audiences are going to really stop showing up to these and say, wait a minute, all that these studios are doing now are regurgitating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And that's why the Marvel Cinematic Universe is eventually going to stop making as much money as it is, not because of necessarily superhero fatigue, but because of Disney fatigue, because of formulaic fatigue. Because if you keep giving the same product or a similar product over and over and over again, over time, it's going to get old. And when you're a giant company like Disney and you own and have so many assets all over the world, they need to start innovating. Again, they need to start putting their ideas and their money into new characters and into new stories, build new audiences the way they were able to do back then in the 90s, when to me I thought they built some of their biggest audiences with the films they did. Even though those films themselves were not based off of any of their own original material. Yes, there was original music and animation, but the story itself wasn't. I think that the way that Disney moves forward into the future is to stop doing all of these reboots and based off of other things. It gets insane. And maybe start to dedicate themselves. They don't have to do it right away, because obviously these films in their mind are still profitable to an extent, I would say. But maybe, just maybe, what they should do is dedicate a little bit of time, just a little bit of time, a little bit of money into a new independent company, and one of the many subsidiaries that they have, and say, your job is to create new and unique stories. Your job, if they want to get new audiences, and the way that you do it is not by taking previous material and politicizing it like they did with Captain Marvel. You don't do that by taking previous material and saying, oh, we're just going to spin it a new way like they did with, the Nutcracker, or Maleficent, or now the prequel to Maleficent, that again was a contortion of previous material. That's not how you bring in a new audience. The way that you bring in a new audience is by creating an entirely new world, an entirely new universe that can be beloved by all. What is the next Star Wars? What is the next MCU? What is the next animated universe? The Disney musical animated universe. Because eventually audiences are going to fade. Audiences are going to get tired of it. There's going to be sequel fatigue. Just like there was 3D fatigue. Remember when 3D was the rage and every movie was being released in 3D, and over time it slowly made less and less and less and less money. We're going to get to the point very soon, especially since you look at this release schedule and you look at the fact that they're going to be releasing nothing but remakes and previously made material in the future, and it just makes you wonder. It just makes you ask the questions. You have this movie called Onward. Let's see what this is right here. Maybe we're getting a little bit of something original. Synopsis: the film set in a suburban fantasy world where humans do not exist, populated with elves, trolls, and sprites, where unicorns are as common as rodents. Two teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there is still magic in the world in order to spend a day with their father who died when they were too young to remember him. So sounds to me like it sounds to me like an original story. But is it going to be enough? I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts? Do y'all think that Disney needs to start innovating again? Do you think that movies like Onward, which again could very well be based off of previous material because that happens all the time, do you think that they need to innovate? Or do you think that they can continue to go on forever and ever and ever, making reboots, making remakes, making different, distortions of original stories, making distortions of stories that were not theirs in the first place? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Also, guys, let me know if you like this type of video, because it is a little bit different than normal. It is going against the pace, which I'm sure is going to make the algorithm go, screw you, we're not going to support your video. We're not going to push your video to the top and let it get, the thousands of views that it normally does. But it is also, I think, a good time to really talk about this subject, because I honestly do wonder what is going to be the next big thing. Over time, we're going to get tired of this. We're going to get tired of it, and we're just going to say, all right, I'm done. And, wash my hands with it. I'm done. Give me something original. Give me something real. Give me something good. Seriously. Because I think original content is the future. This might be where the money's at right now. But if you think, just from my own perspective, that people are going to continue to buy the same thing over and over and over and again without it eventually catching on, I think that you're setting yourself up for a gigantic failure So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me today. If you like this video, smash that like button. Give me a subscribe if you don't mind. It really does help me out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.